This episode is brought to you by S&P Inc., JPS Computers, and my new sponsor, Red Rock Harley Davidson. So, and thank you, Red Rock, because you gave me a home when the entertainment world was crushed. So thank you. And for those of you listening, the Rock Rage Radio listeners, it's Monday night at 6 o'clock West Coast, 9 o'clock East Coast. Rock Rage Radio, we are everywhere. My name's Bryan Hopkins. This is a Hero's Journey podcast. And what's crazy is how the universe just throws people into your life. My next guest, actually, we met a long time ago when about 2006, 2007, I was in a band called Paperback Hero. I got discovered by Ralph. You guys know him as Michael Starr, the lead singer of the band Steel Panther. And he discovered me, gave me an opportunity, and I became the band that played with them the first Monday of every month. And there was a guy that I would see every night. It was a Roxy and then the Key Club. And at the Key Club, this dude was so cool to me all the time. He always took care of us, made sure that we were always felt safe. But I had no clue that he was full of all this talent because he never said anything. It was always hugs, handshakes, and just looking out and just giving me props and always cool to me. And then come to find out, like during, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, all of a sudden I'm like, who's this band? I know that guy. Oh my God, that's Tommy. And there's a story behind that. So my next guest today is a former lead singer of the band Bad Wolves. That's how you might know him. I know him as Tommy, and you know him as Tommy Vext. Buddy, thank you so much for being here.
It's quite an intro. Yeah, it's very, it's awesome to, still be, the old days. Right?
Yes.
Right? So, like when we met, I had just moved from New York and I moved to LA and I needed a job, right? I was sleeping in, I was in a metal band called Divine Heresy with Dino Cazares and formerly of Fear Factory, and Tim Young from Morbid Angel. Okay. And I was sleeping in a closet and I had no car and I was taking the bus.
You're a big dude to be sleeping in a closet.
It was a sliding door closet.
Okay.
And I was like living in this like punk rock house with like 15 other people. And I worked as a bouncer.
Yeah,
right.
You stood right a stage every night.
Yeah. And so nobody knew that I was a sleeper cell.
Dude, I had no clue. You never said. And I was just telling these guys that Austin, who told me a lot about your old band, the band you're talking about, Divine Heresy, and he was playing that before you walked in the building. And he's like, if you're a fan, then you know where he came from. And so that was wild because you never mentioned it. You were just always, it was like just doing my thing.
I stay in the cut. I do my thing. I had to pay attention too because there's been times where like, Metal School or Steel Panther, the different names that it had. People would jump on the stage. So me and Chris were on each on opposite sides. And Brandon and Bubba.
Yeah.
So they call me Baby
gosh,
Bubba because
you look like brothers.
Yeah, we're both black and white, and he's like probably like a foot taller than me. So we're like, it's like little Bubba. He was there before me. And so we would have to make sure that like nobody like jumped on the band. And when they called girls on the stage, that guys didn't jump up there and start trouble. And so we were just...
Unless it was Steve-O jumping up and getting naked.
Yeah. Which nobody wanted, but nobody cared.
He still did it anyway.
It was part of the show, So, it was great times, man. It was, and that was pre-sobriety. I wound up getting sober a couple years later.
Congratulations on that, man.
I've been clean for about 13 years. I actually... it's...
Nah, bro.
It was a burning building. It was like we had fun. And then it was fun with problems, and then it was problems, And so when I wound up singing for Snot for a little bit, and we actually sold the Key Club out. I came back to the venue in 2009 or 2008, and we did the Snot reunion there, and it was sold out. And like guys from Incubus and Korn and Static X and System of a Down were like in the audience, like in the VIP, and I was just like. I'm like, I don't even know how I used to work here. And
Yes.
I said that speech and I was like, I used to work here. And Rick was the head bouncer. He ran security. And I was like, that's Rick. I'm like, he gave me my first job when I moved here and I didn't have anything. And I was like, this one's going out to you, Rick. And he was just like a proud uncle.
That is amazing.
He's like, one of our boys made it.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that venue, those nights, Monday nights, I try and explain to my girl who's in the next room, Nicole, like Steel Panther nights were insane. Every Monday night was a new experience. It was full of celebrities.
LA's dead now.
It is.
Right. I lived there for 17 years altogether, on and off. And the Strip, they changed the Key Club to a nightclub like One Oak, and it's just like a douchey bottle service nightclub.
Right.
And the Strip just slowly started to
they started
fade.
selling off stuff. Like the Viper Room is like going away, or if it's not gone already.
Yeah, and I'm from New York, and I grew up in the Bowery on CBGB's playing shows with fake IDs because I wasn't like I've been in a band since I was 13.
Holy shit!
And
I had no idea.
I had a mustache and a fake ID. So like, I don't let him in. Like, and I was close to like 5'10", 5'11". They're like, he's fine. But we watched first in New York. We watched all the venues close, and CBGB's turned into a John Varvatos.
Right.
And then I moved to LA in 05 or late 05, early 06 to do this band with Tim and Dino. And it was still alive. It was bumping. Every Monday night, it was lit.
Yeah.
And then the other nights of the week, there were always shows. There were tons of punk rock shows. I got to work the first Alice in Chains concert reunion with the new singer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was bouncing at the Roxy.
Oh.
And so I was interchanging because I didn't have.
Yeah. No,
I worked like 6-7 nights a week.
Bro, I would see you on the sidewalk. I was out there hustling, trying to get my band, known. And those days it was like MySpace started to come around, but I'd be out there passing out flyers, give you a hug, walking down the street, going to the next club, passing out stuff.
You guys were consistent, right? And it was like there was never. We had a whole group. There was just a whole community.
There was
of musicians, and people were cool to each other, and you go to each other's shows.
Yep.
We go
Support.
to Spasmatics.
Spasmatics,
right? That was Spasmatics was Tuesday nights or Wednesday nights or Sunday. It was a different night.
Yeah.
And they did like 80s. But so it was just, it would move around, and it was people from the music industry, the porn industry, the acting industry, and just people who just liked music, live music. And there was always something going on.
Yeah, and the colleges would show up to college kids and people, kind of like that energy that Vegas has, but now it's here. Yeah. And which is wild because I ran into you at Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know when that was, a few weeks ago or whatever.
It was like mid-December. Yeah.
Was it then?
Oh, yeah. Or end of December.
It was here. What month is it? You're right.
Yeah, it's January. It's like 3 weeks
I'm thrown
ago.
off. Yeah.
I mean, dude, I'm so like all over the place too, but because I was traveling in Europe before that, and so I wound up driving cross country. I went to in October. I lived in Nashville for like 9 months last year. Didn't like it.
Wow.
I just did not. People are nice.
Yeah.
It's cool. There's not really a fitness industry going on there.
Right.
And then I don't drink, so like everybody drinks.
I don't drink either. I don't know if you know that about me. I've never had a drink in my life.
Oh.
I don't know what alcohol tastes like.
You're better off.
I don't. Yeah. I've never done a drug. I've never done anything.
Hell yeah.
No, bro. Like, I laugh because growing up, my dad like sold weed and he grew it, and I'm Native American Indian, and so it's like firewater to my family. And I saw that at a young age and just decided at the age of 8. I remember my dad was in a band and I'm reading his lyrics and my dad's singing and I'm like, nope, you sang the wrong word, And then he goes, go get me a beer out of the fridge. And I go to and he comes back and hand it to him and he said, oh, I shouldn't have done that. One day you're going to want to drink and I want you to come to me. And I'm like, I decided right then, no, I don't want to do that.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a true story, man, and I've never done it.
My friend Dan, he's an amazing lead singer, but he turned producer. He lives out in New York and Long Island. Same thing. His dad was a drinker, and Dan was like, when we were all, I've known Dan since I was like 15, and he was a singer of a band called Dividing Line, and he was like, "I'll never drink," and like
that's cool.
25 years later, he's still never drank. His kids have never had to deal with him. No one's ever seen him drunk. He's never pissed himself.
Yeah.
So that's a hard line to walk, because it takes a certain personality type to like say that without having consequences to see before. Because I was someone who I had to like hit rock bottom,
right,
and be like, I can't do this anymore.
But that's okay. You recognized it, like you said. You walked in and went, "Oh, I burned that bridge, burned that building down." Kind of thing.
I ran out of drink tickets. That's why people ask me, like, yo, you want a drink? I'm like, I ran out of drink tickets. So like, okay. I was like, what does that mean? I was like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, good for you, man.
Yeah.
So that's why I say that's a big deal. That's
then it's been a wild road.
But you said you went to Nashville. So
I went to Nashville to escape LA, because I was living in LA during the riots and COVID in 2020, and that my outspokenness about all of that caused the cancellation of Tommy Vext, right? Like most people who know my story, they know that I came out in 2017. I sang for Five Finger Death Punch. I did their European tour. Ivan was not well. He had to get treatment, and the band asked me to sing for them. And so I did so that's kind of what happened when I got that was like the big breaking moment. Was like, we were in Austria and Vienna, and they're like, all right. And you know who was there? Steel Panther. Yep.
They told me this story.
And so I was tripping, and Michael Starr, who also doesn't drink, was like, hey man, he was like, let's talk. So I was like, okay. And I'm freaking out. I don't know if I can do this. He's like, you got this. He's like, you wanted this moment since you were standing on the side of the stage. And it all comes back to the Key Club.
Yeah.
And then, we went out, and I wrecked the show. I crushed it.
That's what he said. The boys pulled me. I'm backstage at one of their shows, and they go, come here. You got to hear this story. And I'm like, okay. And they're telling me a story. Tommy. I'm like, Tommy, there's lots of Tommies. You have a buddy here named Tommy. They're like, no, Tommy, security guard, Key Club. I'm like, Tommy, yeah. And then they start the story.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I walk out, the show's over. You were at the show.
Yeah.
And you were at the show here in Vegas. And I walked up to you and I went, bro, was that true? And you're like, how'd you do it? You were like, no.
Yeah,
you did this. No, and
like, nah.
No, it's not true.
Yeah.
And it was one of those moments. I just felt so much pride for you, because the way what they were saying about you and what you did, I couldn't do it, man. I know that.
Well, it was a weird. This is the thing too. It was a weird moment because I'm sober, right? I'm in recovery. I went through the steps, and my primary purpose is to help another alcoholic stay sober. So part of me was torn, because where I'm supposed to be feeling like, oh my God, like this is my big break. I also had spent the last 5 years being a drug and alcohol counselor, and I was more concerned that Homeboy was going to make it, because I saw him at his worst, and it was scary. It was actually really scary. And I've known Ivan. We used to drink together.
Okay.
We were both unknown metal singers, getting wasted at the Rainbow. We've gotten into fistfights and fought other people. Like
no way.
Yeah. Some guys tried to fight. Some drunk douchebags tried to beat up the valet guys at the Rainbow, and me, him, and Mark Rizzo came out and fought everybody.
Oh my God.
And we won.
Oh, dude, come on now.
But so that's how far back we go. So I just, I wanted the guy to be okay. So it was a very conflicted thing. And then, ultimately, he needed to take some time. He came back, obviously came back better than ever. Our relationship has since been strained. We have very opposing political beliefs, and we've gotten into shit over that, among other, mini dramas on tour. But, but the miracle is that dude's alive.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's all that matters.
We just saw them the other night. We went and saw them.
They played the same night as Olympia.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so that's where I was.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even know. And then I saw like a billboard, and Zoltan's big head was there. I was like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they did that. But yeah, so what I was getting to is I got signed because I did that.
Right.
So their record label signed me up, and they were like, this guy is crushing it. Like, he just went out. You know, some of the shows we did with 300,000 seats.
I saw that, dude.
And I just took everyone, and I was like, you know.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I see that about you. I follow your social media, dude. And the way you control a crowd, you control the crowd like it's just Doc sitting there and Chase. Like they're the only ones there.
Yeah, but it's just about having it's about honest connection, right? People can tell when you're full of shit.
Yep.
So I'm like, we're here to party. Like, we're here to fucking throw down, and you're going to remember this when you leave. Like, it's my job to make sure that you have the best time, and we're going to do this thing. And that's what rock and roll is about.
Right.
Right? We're not curing cancer. We're giving people an hour to not think about their shit lives or their shitty boss or their shitty school or their shitty bills or their shitty government. That's what our job is to do.
Right.
You know? And so a lot of people... I think that I'm very grateful that my perspective being in recovery, right? Because before I got sober, like, I made the show about me, right? Yeah, like, it was about me getting the validation of being, you know, abandoned or abused when I was a kid or blah, blah, blah. And look at me now. And through the process of recovery and facing all my trauma and my, you know, self-harm and self-pity and poor me and drink.
Right.
And you get on the other side of your self-victimization and you find true power. And the true power that all of us have is the inexplicable power to help another human being. So if you could just give someone a break from their pain for 45 minutes, fuck, man, that's like, sign me up.
That's
and they're
amazing.
Gonna give us money for this?
Yeah, we get to get to make a living doing this. It's incredible.
That's the dream.
Yes, it is.
You know? So
Bro, so you get signed from the same label. What's the very first song that comes out?
Oh, well, so Zombie gets dropped, right?
Right.
It wasn't supposed to.
Okay.
It was not supposed to be the first single. The first single off the record was Remember When. And I wrote that song with Drew Folk, who also co-wrote. He's written with a bunch of different bands, but the songs that I wrote in Bad Wolves, the guys didn't. The band was a backup band.
Okay.
So it was very much like Marilyn Manson or Nine Inch Nails, and so the drummer had a studio guitar player that we worked with. He would write the heavy songs, I would write the rock songs, and then we mushed them together and made records.
Okay.
That was the vibe. And so I Remember When was this song about how my brother tried to murder me in 2010.
Yes.
And so they were like, this is the song. Like, it's super emotional. We're going to do the life story. We're going to do This Is Who You Are. It was supposed to be like 50 Cent's Many Men, like the song about how you almost got killed. And then I recorded the song in Stockholm, Sweden. I was still on tour with Death Punch, and Ivan was bringing me out to sing one song a night, to
reintroduce you to
the European audience. So
right.
that when we came out there, he was basically doing me a solid because I did him a solid, and
which was huge. That's
of course. And so we're playing Wembley. They're Five Fingers doing Wembley Arena. I come out and sing. I can't even remember what song. Probably Burn, Motherfucker. And I meet Dan Waite, who's the head of the label in England, and he's like, "Hey, I heard that demo song that you did of the Cranberries, Zombie," and I was like, "Oh yeah," and he was like, "I think we should really put it on the record." I was like, "Well, I recorded this for another band, and none of the guys in the band want a cover song on the record." And he's like, "Well, what if I got Dolores to sign off on it?" And I was like, "Yeah, if you did that, then no one could argue with me."
Right.
So we send the song to Dolores. It's December, right before Christmas. I go to New York to see my mom for Christmas, and then I was living in Vegas, and I fly to Vegas. I get a phone call. Dan is with Dolores. They leave me a message on WhatsApp, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I love this song. Like, I want to sing on it. Like, I can't. It's a killer track." And
right.
I'm like, "What?" So I, next morning I text the whole band. I'm like, "Bro, Dolores is gonna sing a song." They don't believe me. I'm like, okay, fine. All right.
Right.
So we flew her to London. The label flies her to London on January 5th or 6th. On the 7th, she's supposed to record with us. She's supposed to record the vocals.
Okay.
In London, she never woke up. So she passed away. She actually fell asleep in the bathtub and drowned. Absolutely tragic, horrifying. And so
Oh, wow.
The next day, Zoltan texts me. He's like, yo, turn on the news. I'm like, the last time he said turn on the news, Chester Bennington died.
I'm sorry.
You know? And so I'm like, oh, shit. Something bad happened.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know. It could be anybody, you know, because there's so
Right.
many musicians.
Yeah.
And he's also sober and like, not that he's like you. He just doesn't do anything.
Okay.
And so I'm like, oh, what the fuck? And then Dolores, there it is.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
So then everyone's getting on calls and like the legal team, the whole label and the owner and everyone's like, we have to put this song out right away. And I'm like, guys, like this lady just died. I don't think we should do this.
Right.
And like, well, if you don't do it, someone else will. And I was like, you know, and I basically was like, well, I knew she had kids. And I was like, I don't want to make any money off this. Like, cause I can't karmically, like it doesn't feel clean. And I was like, I'll do it if you guys set up a trust fund, if her children get all the money.
Oh, dude.
So that's what we wound up doing.
Bro.
And but we didn't know, we had no idea what was going to happen next. And then what happened next, everybody knows the story. Zombie came out, it was the biggest, it was the highest selling rock single in 13, 14 years. It was #1 on Apple in 27 countries. It was, I mean, dude, the song is now platinum everywhere. You know?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I looked up on YouTube. It was 400. It's going up by the millions every other day.
It's like 500 million.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Yeah.
And I saw that and I was blown away. But when I saw you at the Steel Panther show here in Vegas, I look and I think it had like 8 million views at that time.
Well, I don't even know if that was out by then. Yeah, because I think I saw you before that tour. So,
okay, well, I mean, but you know what I'm saying? It's like I was like, by the first time I go to look, it had 8 million views.
That was like the third day.
Because, I remember you giving me a nod, like you were having to go to rehearsals. And you were here in town, and I was asking you I was playing the House of Blues that following week. And I invited you to the show, and you're like, dude, I have rehearsals. And I'm like, 4, and you're like, no.
I couldn't say it. Well, there was so many things happening. I couldn't say anything.
But it was a no, you know.
So so then anyway, the thing blew up. It got like 10 million views in a couple days. Then it was like 20, and we're like, what the fuck's going on? Then it was 30 and 40, and we're like, holy shit. And then the label called, and they were like, you need to leave. You need to go to the airport in the morning, and you're going to Germany. And I'm like,
whoa.
Why? And they're like, what do you mean why? They're like, you're going on a press tour. I'm like, oh fuck. And I know what those are because like, so I was a sober coach with Justin Bieber for a little bit.
Really?
Yeah. So I've had a lot of famous clients, and I'm like, fuck, these things suck. Because what press tours are is me and Doc, the guitar player, right?
Okay.
We're like, you two are going to fucking Germany, and you're gonna sleep for 3 hours. You're gonna wake up, and because you're gonna land at like 3 or 4 in the morning, and you're gonna get up at 6 to be at a radio station at 7. Then you gotta sing. And like, I'm like, voice,
dude, voice and always so first.
They're like, we don't care, bro.
Yeah.
This opportunity like this only happens once every 20 years, maybe.
Right.
You're on fire. Now go. So we went, and we
tried to sleep on the plane, I hope.
Yeah, which is hard because they wouldn't pay for good tickets. and like, dude, I'm 270.
Yes.
And I'm 6'1", and Doc's 240 and 6'2".
Wow.
And we're like, please don't sit us next to each other. You know what I mean? Two big ass niggas like, oh fuck, smashed together.
And little Chase, my producer Chase, he's the guy stuck in the middle between you.
That's a nightmare. Yeah, so then we're all over. We go to Germany, then we go to England. I mean, but we're all over the place. We're like flying to different cities in Germany. We're flying all over England. Like, we did. Like London is crazy. It's like New York over there. Right. It's just like jam. Like, you want coffee? I'm like, I don't drink coffee. Like, he's a spot of tea. I'm like, okay, cool. What's in your head? Okay, I had to sing this song like 15 times a day.
Wow.
And so we did all that. Then they're like, okay, we're going to Ireland. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, they just tell, like, you don't know what's going on because it's all happening so fast. And so they flew the whole band to meet us in Dublin. And they're like, all right. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh, we're playing on the Late Late Show, which is their SNL.
Okay.
With Ryan Tuberty, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. And they're like, you got to sing the tracks. And I'm like,
Right.
I don't do that. And
Yeah.
like, and so like the CBGB's guy.
Yeah.
Now they're like, everyone does it. It's the rules. You have to. And I'm like, nah, I'm gonna sing.
Right.
And they're like, nah, you're not. And I'm like, all right, I'm leaving. And they're like, this little motherfucker.
Did you end up doing the show?
Yeah, I sang.
Badass.
Yeah, I sang it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Is it? Can you find that on social media? Is that out there? You think?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. I didn't sing great too because I was so tired.
No,
and
tired, sleep.
But it was real.
What I'm saying is, you of all people, as a singer, I sit back and you would, oh man, I need that saving grace, but you don't do it because it's
after 20 years of doing it. You can't. You're like, listen, I didn't cut my teeth this long to have this moment. And the funny thing is that as that aired live, after the performance, the song went #1 in Ireland.
Dude.
And you're talking about, and it's really hard too, because listen, Dolores just died. She's an Irish rock singer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like these people, I grew up in an Irish family, right? Like my parents are Irish, and I'm like a quarter Irish. From my birth parents, I was adopted. Bro, Irish people are very serious about their culture, right? And so to have those people accept an American band, with 2 African American guys in the band singing, and knowing that the connection of what the meaning of the songs are real, right, and knowing the history behind what the song was incredible, and then it went #1. It was just so. It was madness.
Dude, it's giving me chills because we started this conversation with you saying, hey, I was sleeping in a closet in a punk house. When I moved to LA, I was living in a car. The Gold's Gym, North Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
I lived in the Gold's Gym right there for 3.5 months. If I wanted TV and air conditioning, I slept in the UA Theater in the same parking lot. I booked my first acting job on the payphone, waiting for that to ring. And
whatever it took.
Exactly. Yeah. And to be in this position, to be sitting down and sharing this story, that's what I wanted to do with the show is Hero's Journey podcast is about waking up the hero of your own story every day. Every time you wake up with a breath, that you're breathing, you get another chance to outdo what you did yesterday. And that's what this is all about. So to hear that story, it's like it's crazy because it's this perfect storm that happened. Yeah. But then what I love about you is I manage these guys called Dadcast Podcast, and Nick reached out when I posted a picture of you and I running into each other at Mr. Olympia, which you had mentioned you have a ton of fans. You've discovered you had a bunch of fans.
Yeah, in the bodybuilding.
In the bodybuilding. But I'm
also a fan of bodybuilding.
Exactly. So you're a freaking beast.
Like, yo, dude. I'm like, oh my God, yo, dude. Hey, man, don't angle me. Because I was a fat kid, right? I beat morbid obesity runs in my family. My Aunt Tina died of morbid obesity. My mom was obese and she lost over 120 pounds. I lost over 120 pounds.
Good for you.
Yeah. So bodybuilding and Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was my fallen hero.
Bro.
Yeah, he said some bonehead shit in 2020.
Yeah, he did, but
I'm like, Arnold, yikes. Yeah.
but dude, you're the one guy who can post 70% of your videos are shot with no shirt. And you're tatted up and in shape, and
took a lot of work.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But it's inspiring. That's what's inspiring. Dude, I'm born without a left chest muscle and part of my biceps, so I was born with a birth defect. And then, alcoholism, it ran in like I said, ran in my family, so I made a choice to not do that and not put that on my family, that my girl and people around me, because I know I have an addictive personality. Yeah, when I do things, I go all in.
Well, that's how the fitness thing got me, right?
Yeah.
It's like it feels good to be healthy, right? It feels good to change your life. It feels good to it's like we talk about whatever it takes, right? To change, your social standings, to change your financial life,
yes,
to change your physical appearance, to change the way people see you, and that's the thing. It's like, there's a lot of pro women talk all over the place, and it's very standing in your power. It's like, well, as men, we have to stand in our power.
Right.
As men, we have to accept there's only 2 kinds of men. There's people who accept their lives the way that it is, and there's men who accept the responsibility for changing it. I wanted to be the second kind. So which means if I don't like a circumstance of something, whether it's my body, my mind, my health, my life, my finances, it's on me, right? And then the more that I work on myself and I get my own shit, the more I'm able to give to others. And that's the principle. We can't transmit what we haven't got.
Right.
You know?
Wow.
So the more like, and then again, like the more the universe gave me opportunities, it wasn't just like when they called and they were like, oh, we got to put this song out. And I'm like, oh, we got to give Dolores's kids the money. It's not, I'm an addict, right? My initial thought is, oh, I got to take for myself because there's not enough. That 10 years before, the old me, that's what the old me would do. And so it was literally a decade of like feeding the homeless and being of service and having to be homeless. You know, I ended up homeless and I went to rehab and I went to sober living and I, you know, threw myself into the mercy of you know, strangers. Right. And I had to relearn how to be a man from other men who had hit rock bottom because I didn't have a father like that. And so, you know, what people don't talk about is it's always overnight success. Like there was so many miserable, scary, terrifying moments of depression and I can't, you know, it's not like I'm like this person who I was like, I'm going to do this. Sometimes on a good day I would, right? But most of the time I wanted to quit, but I just refused to. And so I call it last man standing. Okay. Who's going to be the last man standing? Because we're always evolving. Right. Right. So we're constantly changing and growing if we're moving in the right direction. And there are different iterations of who we are. And if you can stop at any time, and that's going to be the last man standing. But I wasn't ready to just, you know, even when I was a loser and then I had my shit together, I'm like, wow, I'm like not a drug addict and a loser anymore. And I'm like doing this. I'm like, it's not good enough. Like I didn't get sober to just be Joe Schmo. Right. Like I want to do extraordinary things. I want to be around extraordinary people. I want to become extraordinary. I can't do this if I don't seek that energy. And so as long as I'm willing to take responsibility for becoming that person, then the universe will make a path. We don't see it, and it doesn't discount the pain and the fear and the lack of. It's hard to have faith. It's easy to be like, yeah, God is great when everything's great.
When it's good.
But it's hard to be like, God, like why, why my friend died, or like why did my kid die, or like why does my friend have cancer, or why is why was this, why, right? Mm-hmm. It's hard when all the bad shit is happening. But when the bad shit is happening, you have to understand it's like a storm, right? The best days in Vegas are after it rains.
Exactly.
It's so clear. It's so beautiful.
Yep.
And like the desert is almost like a painting of like God's grace of how beautiful it is, but it has to be shitty and gray for a minute. Yeah. And it's like, in California when it never rains, people they start taking heaven for granted.
Right. Right. And dude, I got to tell you that you're so well spoken and it's just you're so Bro, it's inspiring. I'm sitting here blown away by the man that you've become. And when I knew you, I didn't know much about you, but I just knew you were a good guy. You were always good to me. And to watch the success and to know that success, you are giving back and you're helping. If you can help one person, you say, and I see that on your social media, you're not afraid to speak about anything. And I love it because it's even, I saw you post about the football player going down and what they put themselves through or, the choices that they make to be in that position kind of thing. And you were sending prayers but also you were saying, hey, we're here for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think like it's unfortunately with when it comes to the jab or like the, big pharma stuff, a lot of people got forced and some people like took that medication or whatever experiment, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they were being a good person. Mm-hmm. And they believed that they trusted a corporation and government officials that were saying, if you do this, you will be helping other people. So they were like, okay, I trust you. And then now what's happening is you're seeing, and whether or not that recent football accident was a fluke, or if it was somehow related, you can't deny the fact that thousands of public people are having heart attacks and heart problems in the middle of soccer games, live television, news anchors. I mean, there's dozens of news anchors who have collapsed on, globally, who collapsed live, and this has never happened before. And so my whole thing is like, my mom got vaccinated, my sister did. I'm like, look, this is my thing. I didn't want to do it because I have an unhealthy trust of the government, or a healthy distrust of the government.
Right.
Sorry, the other way around, dyslexic. And so, but I think everyone should decide for themselves, right? Like when they say my body, my choice, that means it for everything. Like I'm not one of these hypocritical people. I'm like, listen, that means across the board, that's your bodily autonomy that's your right.
Right.
And so if you did engage in that experiment, I'm just saying, hey, as someone who loves people who have taken that medicine, go see a cardiologist.
Yeah.
Just get checked.
Yeah.
You're probably fine.
There's weird things going on with my dad that it tripped me out, and it wasn't until after. Yeah. It's like all these health issues that we're struggling with, and it's been scaring the crap out of me.
I've lost more people who had that and who had gotten the 2 shots and boosters. I've lost more people than no one I know passed away from the actual COVID. But I know half a dozen people directly that have had heart attacks and died.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's not this.
Yeah. No.
What are you going to do? You can be mad about it, or you could say, hey, I might get shadow banned for this, or I'm going to, and it's like people don't understand that a lot of the tech companies, their investors are the same trillionaire companies that make these medications.
Right.
So the problem is that there's this massive financial structure that is telling the media what it can and cannot say, and telling the government to tell the media what it can and cannot say about their products. And that's the problem. Our government is supposed to protect us from, in a free market and in a free nation, the government is supposed to regulate the drug companies. The drug companies have so much money dumped into the swamp of our government that they no longer regulate the corporations, and so we have to be able to communicate and think for ourselves of what's best for us. And I don't think I think in 2020, like, everything was so divisive. I never saw so many people get, successfully turned against each other, of like, it was like Democrats versus Republicans.
Right.
And then
That was crazy.
Everybody's racist, or like everybody's a misogynist, or and I got canceled because and I'm the let's see in rock, I'm not most number one single African American artist. Period.
Really?
Yeah. No one's who.
That's amazing.
Right, in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, okay, I have an opinion about BLM because of where the money's going. Because number one, I don't support violence. I don't support destruction of property. I don't support burning things down and looting as a solution to a systematic problem. And I support law enforcement because I have family in law enforcement.
Right.
I know the difference. Right. And I know the media makes a lot of money off exploiting scenarios that are the minority of situations where, obviously that guy was a bad cop and he went to jail and he got, you know what I mean?
Right.
And, but the way that everybody went about it was insane. And I called it out. And then I started to investigate where the money was going. The money did not go to the African-American communities. It went to Act Blue, which is a Democratic super PAC party. And they basically took all the donations to BLM and donated it to Joe Biden's campaign.
Whoa.
And so I exposed that, and then everyone fucking got on my ass. And I was like, bro, like,
wow.
I'm like, and it was all white people in the music industry were like, I can't fucking believe you. Like, you're a disgrace to your race. I'm like, bro, that's racist.
Yeah,
I'm like, you're an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I loved about what you were doing. You were I followed it all, man, and I was like,
they lied
you were
to us about
you were
so
brave.
much.
You was so brave because this is. We just talked about it. It's our careers, man.
Yeah.
It's our careers, but you keep You're like a fucking phoenix. You keep just coming up, and
like,
you have loyal fans.
It's not just about, well, yes. Well, look, the people who support me, they make it possible for me to continue to make music and continue to do this. But the thing is that, you know, when cancel culture came from me because they didn't like what I was saying, or they didn't like the political things I was saying, or the people I associate with, or whatever the fuck, it was very hard. I mean, bro, they went as far as to like hire my ex-girlfriend to falsely accuse me of domestic violence. And I went and I beat those charges. I beat him in criminal court. And then I was exonerated by a judge in civil court, literally on the record that I was never, that there's no evidence of any domestic violence. And the metal media didn't run the truth. They ran their side of the story.
Yeah, that's it.
To do a defamation piece on me, to make me look like a woman beater.
Right.
And because they didn't like that I supported Trump. And and like, if this is the thing, if the Democrats didn't want me to support the Republican president, why is it impossible for you to produce a candidate that speaks English? You know what I mean? Like the guy, it's like,
right.
I'm not trying to make fun, but like, you know, not only both those guys are older, like we should, you know, they're like, oh, we should have age caps.
Right.
On who can run the country. Because think about this. You wouldn't let a 90-year-old, or, you know, an 85-year-old person run a company.
I wouldn't let him drive my car.
But people were so shocked. It was so shocking to them because they believed the media.
Right.
Because the media, owned by the pharmaceutical companies, who, you know, also want to control who the president is so that they never get in trouble for fucking, in case they fuck up the medication they're giving people because they're rushing it out. And so if there's a side effect, they're like, oh, we got this dumbass guy. Like he's going to say whatever we tell him because we own him financially.
Right.
So they didn't want, there's multiple layers of this. It could go way deeper, but.
No, I know.
The dumb version is this shit's fucked up. And I was like, I'm not fucking with this guy. I don't like all this shit that's going on. And I'm saying it.
Right.
And then, you know, it was just, the hammer came down. And, you know, I mean, it's like...
It's wild that we're sitting here talking about this because I was nervous. I wanted to ask you your opinion on these things because I know that I know them. I've seen it. Could you grab another water for him, please?
Oh,
Thank you. And so anyway, here we are. And you're openly talking about it, which I love, but only because, again, you were canceled by this kind of stuff. But I want to get back to you as a songwriter. Something you touched on, you know, the song about you and your brother.
Yeah.
And thank you, Doc.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, bud. The name of that song again, because I've listened to it.
Remember When.
Yeah, Remember When.
Yeah.
I've watched that video multiple times, way back when it came out.
Yeah, it was heavy.
It was heavy, and it's. As a songwriter, as a musician, as an artist, I mean, like you said, going back to, we talk about walking out on stage and being real with people.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, as songwriters, we're writing, this is like our diary, vocal diary. We're standing out there sharing our stories with people. And we're basically standing there naked. We're basically sharing our souls. And with that song, Chase, my producer Chase, I guarantee you don't know this but you had mentioned, you touched on it earlier. What happened? Can you tell us about this?
Yeah. So, you know, I moved back to New York in 2010 after I was 1 year sober, right? I got sober in 2009. And, I have a twin brother. And, like, you know, me and my brother, like, we grew up fake as thieves and, like, we got in a lot of trouble. And
you were adopted?
Yeah.
You said?
Yeah. So we're blood twins. And then we were adopted into a family. And, you know, it's like my brother had a lot of problems growing up. Like he was institutionalized when he starting like around 11. He had like some severe mental health issues, and then, you know, we discovered drugs and alcohol pretty young, and like that did not help. And you know, he struggled with it he struggled the rest of his life. Whereas I, you know, eventually left home. You know, we had gotten into a fight when I moved to California, and I stopped talking to him. And then, you know, when I had moved back, I had seen him once, you know, and then he, you know, everyone kind of knows my brother is like, you know, doing gang shit and getting in trouble and like, you know, he's just a drug addict. And so he wound up breaking into the apartment, and I came home from a date and he had already broken in. And so, you know, we had an exchange, and he wanted me to help him murder somebody.
Whoa.
Yeah, he had just gotten, he tried to rob a store. He actually tried to rob our friend's cousin's pet store, and the guy had to hit him with a hammer, and he ran away. And then he wanted me to go help murder this guy. And he was obviously on drugs. And I was like, bro, like, you need to get sober. I tried to do that whole preach.
Right.
He wasn't having it. And
right.
then he went in my neighbor's garage, got a crowbar, and I thought he had left, and so I was like leaving the house to go walk to my sister's to make sure he didn't go there next. Mm-hmm. And he hit me from behind with a crowbar, fractured my skull. We fought, like we actually fist fought. He broke my arm. I had to fight him with one arm. It was rough.
Whoa, dude! I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. And it was a long time ago.
I know, but that's your brother.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So anyway, the long story short is, you know, I ran away from him. I ran to the neighbor's house. I collapsed. They called 911, and then I flatlined in the hospital. This is the short version.
Right.
And I had a near-death experience. It was real weird. I woke up in the ER, and yeah, it was just crazy. I was still alive, and yeah. My nurse was actually my high school girlfriend's best friend, who I hadn't seen in like 15 years. Randomly, I was like,
"That's a weird way to wake up." And
I thought I was like, "Am I dead?
Yeah,
what's going on?" And yeah, and so, you know, it's
And you wrote a song about that moment, because that's in the video.
There's actually 3 songs about that scenario because it wasn't over then. So, Remember When is actually the past. It's really talking about how we grew up and how close we were, and that, you know, like I'm somebody who I have to live with a broken heart. I love my brother more than we're twins, but he was bigger than me, and I was I loved him. I wanted to be like him, and I couldn't believe he would do this to me. And that's what that song is me coming to terms with being not mad anymore and being able to say the honest truth about why it hurt so much. And then Learn to Walk Again was literally about I couldn't walk. So I was so fucked up. Like, I had so many injuries. I was in the ER, and like after like a week of being there, they're like, "All right, you got to get out of bed." And I had like guys from AA coming in and bringing me meetings like once a day to make sure I didn't relapse. You know, and I had yeah, and then Steven.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, my man.
I'm sorry, man.
Nah, it's good, bro.
I'm sorry.
Empaths. Too much. We're empathetic, right? You're feeling it.
Oh, no, I am.
Yeah. I know the
sorry.
vibe. But all these beautiful things happen as a result, you know, like Mia Tyler, who's Steven Tyler's daughter, we're friends, and she found out what happened, and she called her dad, and Steven was like, "Bring him to the house." So they drove to New York, to the city, picked me up from the hospital when I was discharged, brought me to Steven Tyler's house in Massachusetts, and took care of me for like 6 weeks.
Aww.
And they administered my medicine so I didn't fuck around.
Yeah.
Because I was super scared, right? I heard all these boogeyman stories of guys getting surgery and then relapsing. And I'm like,
never coming out of it.
I just stopped being a piece of shit.
Yeah, and yeah, that's the fear.
Yeah.
And, you know, or people who get caught up in, lost in that. I just had a friend suffer from that he was into bodybuilding. You would know him from back in our day. He was in a band called Orin, and he would play the circuit. Singer, he was a handsome guy, in shape, loved working out, got into MMA fighting, and moved back to Ohio with his band and whatnot. Just, he didn't fight, but he just trained like that.
Sure.
He hurts his back and got hooked on Oxycontin, and nobody knew. Nobody had a clue.
And the same company that manufactures that shit is manufacturing the fucking protection.
Exactly.
From the fucking flu.
He called me up one day, and he's like, 4 days in a row, he calls me, and he's talking to me. He's like, "Bryan, I love you. I trust you, you know." And I'm like, I'm not talking to the same person. I don't.
Yeah.
So I knew And Nicole, my girl, was so like, stay on the phone with him. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. I was working out the last day, and he calls me on a Thursday, and I'm at the gym, and so I stop. I'm like, hold on, and I'm talking to him, and I would not get off the phone with him, and I made him promise not to do this, not hurt himself, not hurt anyone else. And then I said, I need to talk to you tomorrow. And you're not going to go anywhere or do anything. I was the last one to talk to him. He decided to take a gun and end it all. But he wasn't all there.
Yeah.
He was lost on all this.
It changes you, and it sucks your soul out, and it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, I'm very grateful that I escaped that. You know, and that wasn't the end of it, right? Like my brother then put a hit out on me because I cooperated with the police. So he had a contract. We call it contracts.
Right.
TV calls it a hitman. They put a contract out on me. So I had to go into witness protection. That's what the song "Foe or Friend" is about. Because I'm on the lam hiding, right? And I was between California and Florida. I have no money. The government's giving me $300 a month to pay my phone bill, and I'm like, you know, living off fucking friends' pizza slices and sandwiches,
bro,
just crashing. Yeah, it was pretty intense.
What a life!
And so then that guy got killed, right? So the DA played me the tapes, the conversation, because he put the call in before he posted bail. So he was in Rikers Island, and the phone call was recorded, and they were like, "Yo, you know, we don't normally go through all these calls, but this is serious. Like, you need to come in." And I recognized the guy, but I couldn't tell the police who the guy was because they would kill my mom if I ratted on them. So I had to just wait it out. And then that guy got murdered from some other shit. And then and then my brother, like, once that guy was gone, he was like, "Fuck, my brother's gonna, you know, testify against me." And the reason why I did is because he was beating up my mom for years. Like, the whole time I lived in California, he would, like, periodically get high and show up and, like, push my mom or hit my mom. And my mom's 74 now, so she was probably like 60. And she never pressed charges, you know, like how moms do.
Right.
So I was like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You know?
I see the love
that
you had, but you know
like
they're
you said,
protecting.
The drugs change you.
Exactly.
So
it wasn't the same person.
Yeah, he changed into another person. And so eventually they caught him, you know, and then I had to testify against him. And this is where, like, you know, this shit it's a wild ride, because one thing that I did wrong in this, and this is what I'll say to any other men or women who are going through a traumatic situation, I went on, like, survival mode because somebody was trying to kill me. Someone had already just almost killed me. And, like, you can't really feel anything. You get so much shit happens, you go numb and you go on autopilot. And that was a mistake because, you know, once I testified against my brother, I expected the next day that my life would start again and that I could finally put this behind me. And circumstantially, I lost my job, right? My boss was, I was managing a bar. My boss was messing around on his wife with one of the bartenders. I saw it. I got fired. My girlfriend at the time was secretly an alcoholic. Didn't know she was drinking. So within like 3 days, I lost my place. My girl confessed that she was drinking and that she didn't want me in the house anymore, in our apartment. And I got kicked out of our apartment, and I had to move in on my sister's couch at 29 years old. Wow. I think I was 30, yeah, because I was 30. And I hadn't dealt with any of the feelings. And so I had no money and no life and no nothing. And I was like a failed musician, and I'd failed at everything. And I just believe that maybe God just wanted me to protect my mom finally from my brother, because he's been terrorizing my family for, you know, almost 20 years. And now I can go be at peace, because when I died, I had this near-death experience of being in heaven. And
really?
Yeah. And I was like, I just thought that maybe I would just go back. And so, you know, I have.
When you say just go back, meaning like?
Yeah. So I had a suit, and I had one suit that I owned for funerals, and I put it on my mom's spare bed, and then I went and I took the bus to the train station to jump in front of the train.
Bro.
And well, this is the crazy thing. It's like one of the gnarliest stories. All this shit's so crazy, but this is the craziest shit. So I'm waiting at the train station in Brooklyn at the junction, and it's an above ground platform. And I like have my biggest fear would be like that, you know, the train wouldn't kill me and I'd just be paralyzed.
Right.
So I was like, if the train doesn't kill me, I'll fall through the tracks and onto the street, and then a car will hit me and I'll definitely die. So I was like, because I'm a drug addict. I'm like, it's got to be the most, you know, I got to make, I'm not fucking around. And so I backed up across the station tracks and I saw the train coming. So I was just going to run as soon as it came. And I could see it at the next stop.
Yeah.
And it started pulling in and I was like, okay, cool. And then my phone started ringing and I didn't recognize the number. Now I have no idea why I answered the phone. Because now I don't really.
Yeah, you don't care. Why would you care?
Yeah.
Right?
And I just like answered the phone and I was like, hello? And this kid I could hear some kid crying on the phone. He's like, hello? He's like, is this Tommy? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, but I'm in the middle of something right now, bro. What's up? Like I was annoyed. And he was like, I need help. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, all right. I was like, all right, where are you? And he's like, over here. I was like, I overdosed last night and I just got out of the hospital and my friends leave me and I got no place to go. And I'm like, meet me in Union Square at the coffee station. I'll be there in an hour.
He saved your life.
Yep. And he's still one of my best friends. He's like my little
Really?
brother. Yeah. So he
saved your life.
Yeah. And I got on the train. I wrote my solo album that came out last year. There's a song called Strong for Someone Else.
What's the name of the album? So everybody out there can
the
hear.
album's called Grand Theft Audio because still my former band and the label tried to steal all my songs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I got them back.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
okay.
Justice system still works, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, so, so I wound up, you know, finally, that was the last part of that whole story, right? It was like, remember when was before, learn to walk again was surviving it, then foe or friend was getting through witness protection, and then strong for someone else was the end part of deciding to just do another day.
Yeah, exactly.
And it wasn't an instant thing. It wasn't like I was like struck and like, oh, life is good. I was still depressed. It doesn't go away.
No, it's not going to. And you said that earlier on. It's not going to. But it's how you get through basically the shit, and how it's how you look at it, how you're going to get up in the morning and figure this out when it's easy when everything's going good.
Well, and also too, like, yo, it's like your boy who called you, like, dude, like you intuitively know you got to stay on the phone.
I did, yeah.
Men need other men.
Right.
We don't talk about that enough. Like, you need your boys. Like, you need to have your guys who are going to tell you the truth about yourself, like, and who want to see you win.
Right.
Not like people who just come around when everything's all good. Because listen, when I got canceled, bro, like, I'll tell you, bro, there are like, I'm not going to name names, but there are dudes who like, oh, Tommy, can you talk to my kid? He's doing drugs. I think he's smoking weed. Will you talk? Sure. Oh, hey, man, will you do a fucking birthday shower for my wife? Like, oh, hey, man, will you do this? Hey, man. I never said no to anybody.
Right.
I'd show up to things. There would be guys who, in massive bands, who were like, hey, man, can you meet me right now? I'm like, it's 7 a.m. Where are you? He's like, I'm at a bar on drugs. Can you just come here?
Oh,
and I'm like, I'll show up.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, you good?
Yeah.
Are you ready to go to rehab? I called the rehab. I'm like, I'm not ready. I'm like, you have drugs on you? He's like, yes. I'm like, give me the drugs. He's like, I can't do that right now. I'm like, okay, bro, I can't force you, but I'll sit here and talk to you. You know,
Right.
And this is like, because I never say no
Right.
to a fucking sobriety request. Because I know someone can die.
It saved your life though too.
Yeah, but that's
that
what,
moment saved one of those moments saved your life, which is really
But we can't deny those requests because you never know.
right.
Right? And like a lot of those people, their lives are great now, but they don't want to talk. They can't talk to me anymore because in the music industry, what happens is that, and people don't understand it's a web, right?
Right.
And the labels have a lot of manipulative control. You know, like they affect the festivals. They affect this. They affect all of the media, Metal Injection, Blabbermouth, Loudwire, Metal Sucks, even the new ones, Heavy, Rock Feed. they're financially supported by the labels to spin the stories that they're told to do.
Right.
The labels have now figured out that they can't compete with social media, but they can control. So if they want to just take advertisement dollars away from your site, they'll just fucking be like, oh, we're just not going to advertise with you.
Right.
And then they're like, oh my God.
Oh no, yeah, what do you want us to do?
We'll do anything.
Exactly.
I'm like, you want us to destroy somebody? Like, whatever. Okay.
You're right.
Like, just keep paying us.
Chase, I can't believe this, man. We have to cut this episode in half. We've sat down with Tommy Vext, former lead singer of the band Bad Wolves, and we had to cut this episode in half. We go for 2 hours. So tune in next week to a Hero's Journey podcast. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. The Rock Rage Radio listeners out there, thank you so much. We'll be back next week. And to our sponsors, I want to thank JPS Computers. Jesse and Alex are doing a great job with our social media. We have a brand new website launching. Chase, you don't know that. We have a brand new website launching, brother. And then to SMP Inc. Thank you guys so much. I can walk around with a hat off and feel confident. Thank you. You gave me my confidence back. And to our brand new sponsor at Red Rock Harley Davidson here in Las Vegas. If you find yourself needing a bike, wanting a Harley, you can contact me. I'll help you. And that's no joke. I still have my license from working there during COVID. So you can reach me right here at A Hero's Journey podcast. Send me a message. You want a bike? I'll help you. So again, thank you guys, everybody. Tune in next week to A Hero's Journey podcast. Chase and I will be here to make sure with Tommy Vext on part 2. Thank you, guys.
Dream, and I believe it's coming around to me.